So here I am planning and dreaming and scheming and figuring what I can get into for trouble come next spring. Um, Anybody that's followed along or watched, they know that I've been having a big struggle trying to get my carburetor sorted out, but I think I'm on the right track. And I do believe I'm cautiously optimistic that my torque converter change is going to make the carb tuning, especially off idle, significantly easier because it's gonna find RPM quicker with less load. The original converter was so dang tight, and I mean when you're starting to try and pull from friggin' 1600 RPM, it's tougher. I mean, it's got an aftermarket cam, it's got a single plane intake, it's got all sorts of different things that are kind of against low RPM grunt, if you will. But I honestly thought that my low first gear in my transmission and my 430 rears would have made up for that. It didn't seem to. Not saying I was doing it right, but that's where we were at. Anyway, let me show you what I got planned, and we'll go from there. Now, this is a 750 quick fuel that I've had on the car for a few years. It was actually on a 318 before I put it on this 5.9 Magnum that I've got it on now. And it worked pretty good. Arguably, I'm not going to say it worked better on the 318 because it didn't, but I think I didn't have as much trouble because I wasn't expecting as much out of it. Anyway, at the end of last season, after racing was done, I put everything back to as stock as I could. Put it back to the original 31 squirters. I think it was 72 jets in the front, 78s in the back. I did leave my 8.5 power valve because it always ran a hell of a lot better with that. So I left it like that. And starting from the stock settings like that, I'm going to do my best to tune that sucker in the way I know that it can be. And my biggest goal is going to be sorting out my 60 foot times to make things better there. That's where I'm going to find the biggest improvement in my track times is in the 60 foot. Now, after I get that 750 double pumper sorted out, I'm going to swap it out for a 750 vacuum secondary and just see how much difference there is between the two. I've got what I feel to be similarly comparable. Of course, it's not going to be exactly the same because I didn't go out and buy a quick fuel 750 vacuum secondary as close to what I had, about what I could afford. And what it is, it's a good old school Holley 780. I think they actually called them a 780 vacuum secondary. And let me show you that one. Now, the intent for this is it is going to be my street/highway carburetor. And I've set it up to be as quick to swap from one to the other. I got the identical fuel rail or fuel line on here. I've got the identical attachment points for my cruise control, for my my throttle cable, and for my kickdown. So all of that stuff should just be a matter of click, 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 and I'll be able to switch from one carburetor to the next. Now, I did say that this will be primarily my street carburetor, and I think that makes sense. Just the vacuum secondary is just going to be that much simpler to tune for highway manners. And will it be as good all out top end on the strip? No, it won't. But I'm super curious to see how much difference it's actually going to be. Now, I know the vacuum secondary is not going to breathe like the double pumper. The double pumper has no choke plate on it anymore. It's more designed for a top end racing carburetor, whereas the vacuum secondary is probably more designed for a grain truck. But I do believe with the vacuum secondaries and just the primaries, I'm going to be able to tune it to give me a real nice highway air fuel ratio, and I'm pretty confident that it's going to really improve my fuel economy going down the highway. I did with the vacuum secondary, and I've made a video on it, but I did change it from the metering plate at the back to a secondary metering block, and I can't remember it. Turns it from a 4160 to a 4150 or whatever it is. It don't matter to me, but that's what I done. I hope to keep it as apples to apples as I can. The vacuum secondary has stock jets for what it was when it was new. It's a 3310 list number, and the vacuum the double pumper. I started out with stock jets for what it was as the Quick Fuel 750 SS street carburetor is what they call it too. But initially when I ran it, when I put it back to the stock jetting, it is pig ass rich, which, you know what, that's fine. I'm trying to figure out and trying to learn. So I will be leaning that thing out some for strip use because I've got the AFR gauge in the car, and between that and keeping a good eye on my plugs, it's I should be able to get it pretty sorted out. But I want to see how close I can get the vacuum secondary to the double pumper. Now, there definitely are some differences between the two carburetors more than what we've talked about. This one, the Quick Fuel, is down leg boosters, which I'm not smart enough to know what the difference is, but I know it's going to give you more signal on the Venturis. So that's going to be a difference, because when you look at this old girl, she's a straight leg booster just like they used to come. So that's going to be one difference. Like I mentioned before, this choke plate is definitely going to be a difference. And of course, like what I talked about, the vacuum running the secondaries open is going to be a big difference too. Now, I wonder, when I was screwing around with that terrible tight stock converter, had I decided to start dicking around with this thing then, I'm willing to bet it would have been easier for me to tune around my tight converter with a vacuum secondary carb. And this is what I'm going to tell you why. I believe that when you're screwing around with this thing, you're just tuning it, you're setting up a 2-barrel, and then it brings in the secondaries as you need. I believe when I was using this big old Quick Fuel, one of my biggest problems was I was flooding the shit out of it right off the line. I kept increasing squirter size, and you know what? I think I was just making things worse and not better. But like I tell you guys all the time, this is, as much as anything, it's about me learning. Now, I'm not anymore just gonna go it alone on this kind of stuff. I've got a couple of friends in the local Mopar small block drag racing community near me that are signed up to give me a hand and give me some pointers. And fellers probably forgot more than I ever knew when it come to carbs and tuning and timing and all that kind of stuff. But she's a clean blank slate for this year with the new converter, and I'm really excited to see what I can make happen. But just as much as anything, I'm really excited to see what I can make happen with that dang old vacuum secondary carburetor, and see just what I can do to afford myself some real nice street manners and fuel economy, because I'm not too sure. I'm thinking I might have a big trip planned for this fall.